Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be another gameplay video, but this time the gameplay is going to be a little bit special just because it's going to be a in-person gameplay, and the whole point of it was me and my brother, we had gotten a starter deck each and we got a booster box each. This was all the way back from pre-release. We were just deciding what we wanted to do with it. And we decided to basically do a booster box deck challenge, where basically we open up everything in our booster box, open up our starter deck of choice, and then we just build the best possible deck that we could out of the cards that we got from what we pulled. This did include the promo pack that the store provided and the dash packs that the store also provided. So keep that in mind. But it definitely was a really interesting set of games and a very interesting back and forth, and these were the decks that we played. So my brother is going to be on the red deck, and this is what he settled on with his red deck. And I opted to play a blue deck, and this is what I settled on with my blue deck, given the cards that I had available. So it's really interesting to build with very limited options, and it really forces you to try to critically think about what are some of the best cards that you could use with some of the limitations that you have. And it definitely is really interesting to see what players would value. So I just wanted to highlight that these were the two decks that we had out of two completely separate booster boxes using two completely separate decks. With all of that said, I really hope you enjoy the set of games, and as always, don't forget to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, as well as pointing out any misplays, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, going into Game 1, we first set up our security by putting the top 5 into our security, then we set up our hands by drawing 5 cards afterward. And then I am going to be going first, so I flip over my Digitama, Digivolve it into Gomamon, draw a card for Digivolving, and then I'm going to raw play a Gabumon, draw a card for his on-play ability. Then it goes to my opponent's turn. He flips over his Digitama, Digivolves it into an Agumon, draws a card for Digivolving, Digivolves that into Greymon, draws a card for Digivolving, and then he's going to set a tie and pass the turn over to me. I draw my card for the turn, move Gomamon out of raising, Digivolve Gabumon into Frigimon, have Frigimon swing at security with jamming. Then I Digivolve into Gorillamon, draw a card for Digivolving. And then I am going to Digivolve again into Loader Leomon, passing the turn over to my opponent. My opponent starts by drawing, moves his Digimon out of the raising area, then Digivolves it into a Groundramon, and then Digivolves that into a Phoenixmon, and passes the turn over to me. So I stand up my Digimon, swing at his security with Frigimon and jamming, then Digivolve my Digitama into a Gomamon. I'll have Loader Leomon swing at security. I hit a Shield of the Just to destroy my Frigimon. And then I cast an Ice Wolfclaw to bounce the Phoenixmon back to his hand, and then pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent flips over his Digitama, Digivolves into an Agumon, draws a card, Digivolves Agumon into Cordramon, draws a card, plays a Gaia Force to destroy my Loader Leomon, and passes the turn over to me. So I draw, move Gomamon out of raising, Digivolve Gomamon into another Frigimon, swing at a security with jamming yet again. Then I'm going to raw play a Monzimon for 5 and pass the turn over to my opponent. He moves out his Cordramon from his raising. Then he is going to hard slam a Machinedramon, de-digivolving my one Digimon by 2. Then I draw for my turn, hatch my Digi-Egg, Digivolve it into a Gomamon. Then I Digivolve Monzimon into a Metal Garurumon. Then I'm going to play a Hammer Spark to gain 1 memory. Digivolve Gomamon in Raising into a Grizzlymon. Digivolve Grizzlymon into Weregarurumon. Then Digivolve the Weregarurumon into another Metal Garurumon, passing it over to my opponent. He starts by drawing, flipping over a Digitama, Digivolving it into Guilmon, drawing a card. Then he's going to raw play a Biomon for 2. And he's going to play a Guilmon for 3, passing it over to my turn. So I start by moving out my Metal Garurumon from the Raising. I'm going to have my weaker Metal Garurumon swing at Security. Then I'm going to have him swing at Security again. He blocks with Cordramon. Then Digivolve into Garurumon, drawing a card for Digivolving. Then I am going to swing at his Security with Metal Garurumon, and then I'm going to swing at him for game. So in Game 1, I was able to apply a lot of consistent pressure, even though we were trading back and forth on Digimon at some point. The fact that my jamming Digimon just put in a lot of extra work really helped me with my aggro plan, on top of my Metal Garurumons being able to multi-attack. Definitely helped a lot. And then this was one of the few instances where Tsunomon definitely came in huge clutch situation, where it was able to make my Metal Garurumon swing over the opponent's Machine Dramon. So that was able to help me close out that game. Alright, going into Game 2, we reset up our security, we redraw our hands, and since my opponent lost, he is going to opt to go first. So he starts by flipping over his Digitama, Digivolving it into Biomon, and then Digivolving Biomon into Growlmon. Going into my turn, I draw, hatch my Digiegg, Digivolve that into Gomamon, draw a card for Digivolving, Digivolve into Grizzlymon, draw a card for Digivolving. I'm going to play a Hammer Spark to gain 1, and Hammer Spark to gain another 1. And then I'm going to Digivolve into Weregarurumon, putting my opponent at 1, drawing a card for Digivolving, and passing the turn. My opponent starts his turn by drawing, moves his Growlmon out of Raising, then he's going to hard set a tie and pass the turn over to me. I draw, move my Weregarurumon out of Raising, then Digivolve him into Metal Garurumon, draw a card for Digivolving. Metal Garurumon's going to swing, skill of Metal Garurumon separating a Grizzlymon, and then unfortunately I hit a Phoenixmon, thus destroying my Metal Garurumon. And then I'm going to play a Gabumon. Gabumon's on play skill activates, and I am going to get rid of the bottom of my opponent's evolution source. And then my opponent's going to draw, flip over his Digitama, and then raw play a Skullgreymon, deleting my blocker. Then it goes to my turn. I draw, flip over my Digiegg, Digivolve into Frigimon, Digivolve Frigimon into Monzemon, and pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent draws, Digivolves into Guilmon, draws a card for Digivolving. He's going to swing with his Growlmon, hit my Loader Leomon, so his Growlmon is deleted. Then he's going to play Shield of the Just to clean up my Monzemon, and then pass the turn over to me. I draw, and then I am going to hard play a Frigimon and pass the turn over to my opponent. He draws, moves Guilmon out of Raising, Digivolves Growlmon into Dark Tyrannomon, swings at my security with Skullgreymon, hits a Hammer Spark, so he loses 2 memory. Then he's going to Digivolve into Metal Tyrannomon and pass the turn over to me. I draw, swing at his security with Frigimon. Luckily for me, Frigimon has jamming. Then I'm going to hard play a Grizzlymon and pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent flips over his Digitama and draws a card. Digivolves into Biomon, draws a card. Then he's going to set another tie. Swing at my security with Skullgreymon. Then Digivolve it into Greymon and pass the turn over to me. I just start by drawing, swinging at his security with Frigimon. Digivolve Frigimon into Weregarurumon, draw a card, and pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent draws, stands up his Digimon, moves Greymon out of the raising area, Digivolves Greymon into Metal Greymon, swings at security with Skull Greymon, swings at security with Metal Greymon, swings at security with Metal Tyrannomon. I use a Grizzlymon to block. Then he's going to play a Cordramon and pass the turn. So I draw, stand up my Digimon, Digivolve it into Metal Garurumon, draw a card for Digivolving, play a Hammer Spark to gain 1, swing at security with Metal Garurumon, he blocks, swings at security with Metal Garurumon again, security checks. The last security check hit a Breaker Dramon, so it deletes my Metal Garurumon. Then I Digivolve into Gabumon and play a Mat and pass the turn to my opponent. He starts by drawing, flipping over his Digitama, and then just swings at me for game with Metal Tyrannomon. So in game 2 was a pretty good game. We both kind of didn't exactly have all of the rookies that we needed to be like as tempo efficient, but we still were both able to play our cards and do some very, very powerful things, even though we didn't always have a rookie on field. And then on top of that, what really caused me to lose the game was the fact that I couldn't establish any board presence. So every time I had a Digimon, I managed to lose it, whether it was from the security check or from my opponent playing cards that will delete my Digimon. It was just very hard for me to get a board state going and aggress because I didn't have anything to aggress with. Alright, going into Game 3, we start off with our game setup procedures by getting our security and our hand, and because I lost, I get to go first. So I'm going to start by flipping over my Digitama, Digivolving it into a Gabumon, drawing a card, then Digivolving Gabumon into Grizzlymon, passing the turn over to my opponent. My opponent draws, flips over his Digitama, Digivolves it into Agumon, then Digivolves Agumon into Dark Tyrannomon, then Digivolves Dark Tyrannomon into Metal Greymon and passes the turn over to me. I start by moving my Grizzlymon from the raising and Digivolving it into a Monzimon. Then I'm going to raw play a Gabumon and draw a card for its on-play ability and pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent draws, moves Metal out of his raising area, Digivolves that into a Breaker Dramon. Then he swings at my security with Breaker Dramon, hits a Saber Leomon. Then he plays a Biomon and passes the turn over to me. I start by drawing, flipping over my Digitama, Digivolving that into a Gabumon, drawing a card for Digivolving. Using my Gabumon on the field to swing at security, it gets deleted because it failed the security check. Then I Digivolve into Gorillamon in my raising. Then I play another Gabumon, drawing a card off of his on play and passing the turn over to my opponent. My opponent starts by drawing, hatches his Digi-Egg, Digivolves that into a Agumon, then Digivolves the Biomon into a Dark Tyrannomon, swings at my security with Breaker Dramon. He does hit a Plesiomon, but his Breaker Dramon lives because he gets the buff from Agumon and Koromon. Then he uses Dark Tyrannomon to swing at security, it gets deleted, and then Shield of the Just on my Monzimon and passes the turn over to me. So I move my Gorillamon out of raising, Digivolve that into a Monzimon, swing at security with Gabumon, it gets deleted, Digivolve into Saber Leomon to get rid of the evolution sources off of his Breaker Dramon, Hammer Spark to gain 1 memory, swing at his security, and then I'm going to raw play a Grizzlymon to pass the turn over to my opponent. Moves his Digimon out of the raising area, swings at my Saber Leomon with Breaker Dramon, but I block with Grizzlymon. I still take the piercing damage anyway. And then he swings at my last security with his Agumon and hit a Mat. And then he plays a Gaia Force to get rid of my Saber Leomon and then passes the turn to me. So I draw, flip over my Digitama, Digivolve it into Gomamon. Then I am going to play a Gabumon for its on-play ability, getting rid of Koromon from the evolution source, Digivolving that into a Gorillamon, and then Digivolving again into another Gorillamon and passing the turn over to my opponent. He starts by drawing, flips over his Digi-Egg, and then swings at me for game with Breaker Dramon. So in game 3, it was just a really healthy back and forth between me and my opponent. My opponent getting his Mega out before me was definitely huge, just because my deck has a lot harder of a time dealing with the Megas than my opponent's. But the big misplay that I made in that game was I should have attacked into his Breaker Dramon with my Saber Leomon, and then we would have ended up trading. So I would have gotten rid of his Breaker Dramon, and him keeping that Breaker Dramon alive definitely was really, really big for him because I just couldn't really deal with it, and he was very, very safe and comfortable with just aggressing with it because of the piercing ability. So he just needed to build somewhat of a board state and then have Breaker Dramon just basically try to control my board and clean up whatever else that I was trying to play with some of his other cards. So it was a very, very good game. It was just I couldn't deal with his Mega, and his Mega just ran away with the game. So if you like this kind of content and want to see more, I'm open to doing more and trying more things. And if you want to support me in the channel, then I do have a TCG player affiliate link down in the description below, on top of which I do design and sell mats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook. I'll have the link to that down in the description below, and that's just a way you could help support me and the channel. So I hope you enjoyed this type of content, and as I stated before, I'll see you in the next video.